Hello, I'm Clive Paget and I'm Limelight's editor-at-large. I'm talking today to Paul and Barnaby Smith, founders of the outstanding British choir Voces8, which has won the popular vote for our International Artists of the Year. The choir has been around for about 15 years now, and on top of a busy touring schedule, they've released a series of best-selling albums. Hi, Paul. Hi, Barnaby. Congratulations on Voces8 being named the People's Choice for our International Artist of the Year.
Thank you very much.
Very exciting. We're very happy to hear this lovely news.
Did you have any idea you were so popular down under?
Well, we've only been once, so
yeah, that's good enough.
I think one of the things we've learned is that through our live from London concerts in the last year, there are some crazy Australians who tune in at a very strange time of day, always live with us. So we know that there are at least some people down in that part of the world who are willing to get up and avoid sleep to come and hang out with us, which is quite fun.
That's great. So Paul, you're the CEO, right?
He's got the tie on.
That's why I'm wearing my tie. Yes, I've had very serious meetings today, but this is a much more fun one. So yeah,
and
that's my official.
Barney, you're the artistic director, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't need to dress up to be creative, you see.
Can I ask you about the pandemic? I mean, Voces8 was one of the groups that really stepped up right at the very, very beginning and started to do new and interesting things online. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did and why you chose to do it?
Sure. Do you want to go first, or shall I?
You go. I'll start, and then
be creative.
Yeah, and you can tell me all the things I miss. Well, I think when the whole thing began, we instinctively wanted to offer as many people as possible the opportunity to remain in touch with their own daily musical lives, which of course is very difficult to do, and you can't leave the house. So we went digital straight away, initially with interactive music making. So for the first lockdown, we had a project called Live from Home, and we went live every day at 2 p.m. UK time. And we thought, to be honest, it was going to be maybe a couple of weeks. It turned into 110 days. And at the end of that, the reaction had been so good, and it seemed to be bringing people so much joy that we were also in touch with many of the artists here in London, looking at the possibilities for things like lobbying the government on behalf of the industry to try and make sure that singing and the safety of singing was being seriously considered rather than just given the blanket that everything seemed to be being given at the time. And out of that grew the possibility that perhaps there was an interest in the whole London singing scene collaborating to bring music to people when they couldn't go out and get it themselves. And that's really where Live from London was born. And we're very lucky here that we're actually sitting at the moment in the office of our Christopher Wren Church. We're in partnership with the Diocese of London to run this wonderful building. So of course we had the space available, and we also within our team had most of the expertise. I wouldn't say all of the expertise, but most of the expertise in order to be able to deliver these streams. And so a few YouTube tutorials later, we were able to sort of do streaming as well, and so we were perfectly placed. But again, it was all, I think, coming back to this idea of instinct. We just knew that people needed music, and we then wanted to find a way to provide it.
So you've done 2 Live from Londons now, and one Christmas, and you're about to do another Christmas live.
Yes, I think actually I'm shocked to tell you this is number 5.
Number 5, wow.
So we did summer, Christmas, spring, summer, and now we're back to Christmas. We roll through the seasons very nicely. And I think to pick up on what Barney said, the key driver for us and what our approach I think has been is quite simply to continue doing what we do. So there's always been that sense of interactive music making, and there's always been that commitment to high class music making, and finding the ways to do both of those things in the digital sphere has been what's motivated us, I think, for the last year.
So Paul, as the stats man, have you got?
Because I'm wearing glasses. I must therefore know numbers.
I'm a stats man too. Do you have a sense of how many people watched your streams to date? And
we have some sense. I know that we've been quite staggered by the sales of tickets. I think that's one of the interesting things about this last year. We've had millions and millions of people have been involved with what we've done in terms of interaction on social media platforms, but actually changing people from people who will come and watch you on Facebook to those who are willing to actually buy a ticket to a concert and will commit to supporting the artists in that way was for us the real question as we went into the whole process. And I think we've had people from more than 75 countries have tuned in. I think we're up to about 150,000 ticket sales now, which is amazing. Wow. And we're meeting people after all of these concerts that we're now actually able to do in real life. And they're saying thank you to us for the music we've made. But actually, I keep having to say,
it's the other way around.
It's the other way around. You haven't just like supported our group, but actually we've employed over 500 artists and engineers, composers in the last year now, and it's only because people have bought tickets that we've been able to do that. It's been a very collaborative sharing process, so the artists make money based on how many people buy tickets. So actually the gratitude really is from us to all of those audience members.
Cool. And did you have a sense of how much money you've raised?
Well, we're past the million mark, which I think is something we'd never believed would be possible, and so
right.
It's staggering, and you know, the turnover for our charity as a whole is normally $1 million to $1.5 million in a year. So we lost 95% of that income through the pandemic, but actually with a combination of our support from donors, people who've bought Live from London tickets, and then the support from the government and Arts Council, people like that, we've actually managed to still be alive. And I think that feels like a real success this time.
Did you ever think you'd bitten off more than you could chew? I mean, were there some horror moments that you just thought, oh, we could?
Yeah.
In this very room.
In this very room, I actually, I broke a phone when it all got a bit too much for me. It's the only time. So of course, I mean, you know, like any venture, especially when starting out, same with Voces8, when we were starting out, you know, I look back and I just think, oh my goodness, how did we do that? And it's the same for this. You get to the point where in order to deliver it, you have to push yourself to, you know, beyond boundaries that you knew really existed. So, but I think so much of the pleasure from our perspective, I think has been within the collaborative side of it, for sure. That's the biggest bonus for me as an artist and for us as a group, is the fact of being able to collaborate, but also just the sense of satisfaction from the sheer elbow grease that's gone into it. It's very nice to actually see something that's made such an impact, especially because we worked so hard for it.
Can I ask you a little bit about the history of the group? I mean, you two founded it 15-ish years ago. What was your reason? Why did you? I mean, you know, there's yeah, everyone, I guess you must have been around about uni age. I mean, everyone founds a group at some point. Why did you found Voces8? What did you want to achieve?
I think wasn't it a social? I think it was a social enterprise for us, first of all.
Genuinely for fun. You know, we were 22, 23, 24, and we stopped singing in youth choirs, and we've been singing our whole lives in choirs, and we wanted to make sure we could keep doing that. So with all of our friends, we started a chamber choir. And then out of that, we went to Italy to enter a competition. And when we got there, it turned out that the competition had a jazz and pop category. So we entered that with 8 singers, really without any planning whatsoever. We called it Voces8, and we won. And that was that. We were off and running, and it was quite a shock to us.
What kind of stuff were you singing back then? What was the kind of repertoire that you used to enjoy?
Probably quite similar to what we do now, in the sense that it was a broad range. We've always done everything from Renaissance polyphony through to jazz and pop. I mean, back then we used to rely on arrangements written for other groups. So we used to sing a lot of King Singers material, for example. But now we're fortunate that we work with a lot of arrangers and they write music specifically for the group. But yeah, it's always been similar. I think our repertoire on disc certainly has evolved in the last decade or so through our partnership with Decca. And I know actually that in Australia, our discs with Decca are quite popular. So we've sort of ventured into slightly different sound worlds through that. But I'd say the core concert repertoire, this idea, our very first program was called From Gibbons to Gershwin. And I think actually, really?
And now Barney's son is called Orlando. I'm wondering if the next one might be called George. We'll find out.
But yeah, that sense of spanning 500 years, 600 years of core music history is still very much at the core of what we do.
Would you say that the sound has changed at all, or is it pretty much?
I think so. I mean, I think that that the group has not necessarily in a necessarily a good way, but I think there's the sound has refined somewhat. So I think when we started out, it was very much 8 singers and 8 individual voices. And actually, if you look at where the people who founded the group are now, many of them are opera singers. And every time we appoint a new singer to the group, we're never looking for somebody to replace the person who's leaving. We're always looking for somebody to succeed them. And the person who gets the job tends to be the person who makes the group sound the best. And so I think whilst we still look for very much an individual musician and an individual voice, there's definitely a sense that the voices are naturally more cohesive. And as I say, that can be a positive thing. It can also have negative drawbacks as well. So, but yeah, I think there's a sense of velvet to the sound now that perhaps there wasn't so much when we started. But we actually now have to have conversations in the opposite way. So when we started, it was all, how can we sound velvety and as one instrument? Now it's like, guys, I think we're just sounding a little bit, sort of too similar all the time. We need to see if we can find some individual character and quality. So same conversations, perhaps the other way around.
And I do think that actually, when we started the group, I feel like even from basically day one, there was a broad vision about what we wanted to do that has driven us forward in terms of the passion for our performance and the passion for our outreach and education work. But I think actually that search for the sound is probably a philosophy that took many years probably to evolve. And maybe we found it now, but it took a long time, maybe 6 or 7 years, possibly longer, to actually find a sound which now is the trademark sound.
It's a culture. It's a sort of culture of how we sing. I think that's actually something more that defines the group. You almost can't put your finger on it. But and I notice it like when we come back to singing together after a couple of weeks off. I notice it then, or if I've been in another project, perhaps singing or conducting something else, that's when I really notice it.
So what about memorable moments? I'm kind of interested, just because I know any group that form together have kind of memorable moments. I mean, inspirational moments and kind of mad moments. What about you guys?
I mean, there's that's unfair. I need at least a minute to think about it. I feel like we've been through so many experiences in the last 15 years. We've given thousands of concerts and visited some incredible places. But saying all of that, like I could talk about trips to Africa, which have just blown my mind, and education projects, which have been so moving and powerful. There's one in Philadelphia we did back in 2019, which combined our music making with sign language, with working with blind, deaf students with autism, adults with learning disabilities, all in one space, learning not just with us, but with each other, and then putting it up onto screens using technology that showed people's heartbeats as they were, just really experimental and fun things. But at the same time, we just did a concert last night in Cadogan Hall, and there is something about coming and singing a home gig that actually you can't beat it.
I get nervous.
You get more
Still,
nervous.
16 years in, I get nervous for a home gig.
People's families come and watch, people's friends come and watch. And so we talk about all of the amazing things we see, the places we go, visiting Australia. I mean, Sydney Opera House, come on, it's just one of the most mind-blowing experiences as any
iconic,
person, just to be there. And then I get to actually perform here. Wow, this is quite something. But there is also that sense of home, which is really, really important.
I'm kind of interested about what you have coming up. Barney as well, I'm conscious of the fact I have now listened several times to your CD, which is fantastic. This is your first solo album of arias. I mean, it's a fabulous album. I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
We will be reviewing it. And
thank you very much. Well, yeah, that was a lockdown project. Okay. I mean, one of the things about singing in Voces8, which is both a magnificent thing, but also you have to have a lot of self-discipline with, is the fact that you give everything to your group. And the reason that the group is so good is because everybody comes to it with that mindset. And so it's quite difficult under normal circumstances to put yourself in a position where you can deliver solo singing to the best of your ability, because you're in a slightly different vocal place normally. And so, of course, having the break meant that we had months and months without singing with Voces8, so my voice was able to zero effectively. And it all came about through a chance conversation with Boyan, who's the leader of the orchestra. And I'm so pleased I did it. I wanted to document my singing actually for my son. That's how it all started. It wasn't supposed to be an album. It was supposed to be something that I could just say, look, if you ever want to be a countertenor son, you can, because this is how Daddy sounded. And it spun into an album. So I'm thrilled you enjoyed it.
You also conduct.
Say again.
You also conduct. That's
I do. Yeah.
Is that something you're going to be doing more of?
Would love to. I think, for my personal journey as a countertenor, perhaps my shelf life, I have some time in me yet, but certainly I'm aware that I won't be singing in Voces8 forever. And I love to conduct, absolutely love it. And I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I do get. And it's something that I'm very keen to pursue once my sort of a crossfade, it will eventually happen, I'm sure. When the time is right.
So Christmas is coming, and you're launching the Christmas online festival in December. Is that right, or is it?
Yes, first concert is the 4th of December. Talking about conducting, I'm conducting what we've called a Christmas cracker, which is in essence an amazing orchestra. Which is a collection of some of London's finest instrumentalists, and Voces8 plus our scholars and members of our sister group Apollo 5 are all coming together to perform new orchestrations of some great carols. That'll be lovely. We've also got a Messiah, which I'm also fortunate enough to conduct, and
there's lots of other things, aren't there? Great things with the Gabrielis are coming back, the Kingsingers, Evangelini. We've got Apollo 5 launching their new Christmas album. So it's going to be, I think, beautiful. Olaf as well.
It's quite funny because when you create these festivals, you sort of it's like piecing bits of Lego together, and you get little bits at a time. But then I came to make the trailer 2 or 3 weeks ago, and suddenly I had to write down all the names of the groups. I sort of sat back and looked at it and was just like, that is, I'd buy a ticket for that. I was really genuinely impressed by the quality of the offering. So I would buy a ticket to my own festival. Your listeners will be pleased to know.
Looking beyond Christmas into next year, what are you hoping to get back to international touring? Obviously, you just have.
Yeah, well, we've just started, and I think there's going to be a nice opportunity for us to combine the live touring with the things that we've actually also been developing in lockdown as well, and the Live from London model continuing with our digital academy, but at the same time our actual outreach programs and our actual concerts getting back to happening again, which is really exciting. For me, I'm very excited because while Barney was doing Handel, I got to record an album of my own compositions, and then managed to ask Voces8 and Apollo 5 to sing them, which was a real treat that wouldn't normally be possible. So I have this album coming out, and we've roped in ballet dancers from Zurich and like Tibetan bowl playing, and we went to Keble to record something out there as well. So that's going to be an exciting release.
Presumably composing was something that you had more time for, and no, maybe you didn't have more time.
Well, actually, it's one of these funny things. When I stopped singing in the group a few years back, composing was something I really wanted to do a lot more of. And I have been, but compared to what I think I would normally do, I would say the lockdown period kept me so busy with the things that had to be done that I would say composing is the thing I love to do. And actually, I had to put that sort of selfish pleasure to one side a little bit, but I managed to squeeze in enough writing to make the project for one of these Live from London concerts, which is called Renewal, and it will be coming out
I'd go so far as to say there's even some good stuff on it.
There's even there you go.
I'm his harshest critic.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully now that the Australian border has opened up again after nearly 2 years, it won't be too long before.
Yeah, we'd love. I think there are plans afoot for us to visit before too long.
We did have to miss a Australian tour because of COVID, so we're hoping it can be rearranged as soon as possible. We love it down there.
That's great. Paul and Barney, thank you so much for spending some time, and congratulations again on that.
Thank you very much. It's honestly, truly an honor for us. So thank you.